How you doing, David? It's good to see you.
Mark, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very good. It's that time of year. You see the fireplace and the
Yeah, that's very.
and
It
the
sets the mood, Mark. Very well.
Arbre de Noël, the Christmas tree behind me.
Oh, Mark, you're so sophisticated.
There we are. We are here to talk about November 24 eGrocery sales. But let's give the audience what they're looking for, which is the top line number.
All right. So is that my cue to throw out the big number?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's give it.
Yeah. So
You want a drum roll? You want a drum roll?
No,
Okay.
Mark.
All right.
I don't need
All right.
that. Save the
All right.
drama for your mama. So
Okay.
18% year-over-year growth in the month of November, fueling results of about 9.6 billion. We saw broad scale gains across the segments. We can talk about that surge of monthly active users coming online, but they were generally gravitating to one method or another. So we saw strong growth across all three segments this month.
It's obviously November being a very important month for our grocery shopping because of U.S. Thanksgiving. But I'm also curious. I mean, it's a continuation of the trends that we've been talking about for month over month. Explain to me, some of your adventures recently, because you've done some comparison shopping of some of the services, retailer services that you have access to. So I'm curious as to you're seeing between traditional supermarket and our favorite mass merchant, Walmart.
Well, give a lot of credit to Walmart. They're innovating constantly there in a very incremental, beneficial way.
I think their numbers just speak to itself. What was it? What was e-commerce was 28% up year over year?
Yeah.
Something like
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of contribution to the top line, it's about 18% of their total. Now that would include the general merchandise as well, which we generally try to exclude as best we can. But, their scale allows them to make investments that are very challenging for those who lack that scale to do, right? In terms of just their resources and capabilities. So it's a David versus Goliath fight. And right now, Goliath has the upper hand.
Because we talked before we started recording, the amount of savings you realized on a recent shop. Do you want to dig into that a little further?
Yeah, I'm going to pull my paper here and that. So I told you, Mark, even though our household really has never been a Walmart customer for the years, we have now signed up for the Walmart Plus primarily for research purposes, but there's a clear financial benefit too. And it wasn't surprising to me, but it absolutely shocked my wife, who, by the way, like a lot of other folks, doesn't have any desire to get anywhere near that physical store.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be seen in it or around it. Doesn't mind getting products from it. She's just not going to go there and get it. So we signed up for it. We did the order. I did the same day as I was telling you. Really, only one issue was my favorite ginger beer was not available. So actually, it was available, but it wasn't available to be put in the cart for the same day delivery. Instead, they were going to ship it to my house a week later, which my wife said, why don't you just do that? And I told her I didn't want to.
It's your addiction, your ginger beer addiction.
That I will either go to the local regional grocer and sadly pay $3 more for that 6-pack, even when it's on special, or I'll just wait for our next delivery. At the end of it, I showed my wife that on an order of $72 from Walmart, which is excluding the tip that we gave, that was an $18 savings compared to if we had bought it at our local Jewel. And that blew her away. Again, all the pricing work we do, sorry about that. She was amazed at the price differences on a range of products. I mean, again, we could see $2, $3 differentials between the price that we were paying at Walmart versus what we were paying at Jewel. Jewel is again,
it's significant, especially for a household that's on a tight budget.
Well, yeah, but here we're less than a half mile from that Jewel. It's conveniently located, so when you run out of something, you go get it. If it's urgent, that's a great place to go. But most of these items we put in the basket are things that we use very routinely. So the frequency of ordering or buying these things is very regular. So there was nothing in that basket that we needed right away. We still got it same day. So it wasn't as though we had to wait. What was interesting was after placing, or as we were placing the order, but after I select my time slot. So it was about 1:45. I selected the 6 to 8 window, so a 2-hour window. And as I was proceeding through the checkout, similar to when they have that suggestive cell with here are some other items that you may have forgotten that you want to put in your basket, they actually inserted an upsell relative to the receiving window. In other words, they came back to me and said, hey, we know you picked 6 to 8, but hey, if you want it faster, within 3 hours or less, it will just cost you $5. Or if you want it within, 75 to 90 minutes, $15. I said no thanks and moved on. But I found that was interesting because I had already made my selection.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've talked previously about the value of having variable time slot fees based on variable time slots. But now it seems like Walmart is taking that to the next level, which is upselling on that convenience factor.
Well, and the key point is it was a second point, a decision point, because I had already made that decision relative to when I want to receive. So they came back and were prompting me to kind of question whether I really wanted to stick with the 6 to 8 or whether I was willing to pay a little bit more. My wife, she probably would look at it differently than I did. I just kept it at the 6 to 8. I'm not a huge fan of this 2-hour window. If it's like the old cable guy service, they're going to show up at like 7:55 and be unapologetic. But in this case, I placed the order at 1:45 and I had all my notifications set. What was really interesting was at 5:54, I received a text message that Elizabeth was starting to pick my order. 5:54 was only 6 minutes before when the receiving window was going to open. So I'm like, well, what does that mean for when I'm going to receive it?
Other than the ginger beer, would you have considered your basket typical, or how would you characterize it?
We had 10 SKUs, 13 items.
Okay.
These were all, center store packaged goods.
Yep.
Nothing on the perimeter.
Okay.
My wife forbid me from doing that. That's where we will go to the regional store.
She drew the line.
And we'll go in store and do that shopping. And there's a separate story there that just occurred last night that we could talk about. But in the case of Walmart, they delivered it. But then when I got the next message, I was surprised. So 5:54, Elizabeth starts picking my 10 SKUs, 13 items. I get a note at roughly 5:04. Elizabeth is now checking out. I'm like, wow,
6:04.
6:04. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
So this is clearly one of their Spark drivers who is doing the full shop and deliver same day. And then they gave me an estimated time of arrival of 6:20. I'm like, oh wow, okay. So now they've reset my expectation. No longer is the expectation framed by a 2-hour window, but now in real time, they've now pinpointed a time, and it refined it slightly to 6:22. I had some fun watching the map, seeing which way the map was going to take them. At first, it was going to take them right through our downtown, which I was like, oh, that's a mistake. They should go around town. This is the way I would go. And in fact, that's the way they ended up going. So it was quite nice. They showed up right around 6:20. It was 6:22. Got that message. I said, leave it at the door. So I didn't have to be present to receive it, although they do recommend you being home so you bring it in, especially if you had any temperature sensitive items. The only challenge I had with Elizabeth was she didn't speak English, so I couldn't engage her very much. She was very helpful, dropped it off. Everything that I ordered was delivered as I ordered. Now, that can be considered a perfect order, but again, keep in mind, there was an item I never put in the basket or removed from the basket because I didn't want to wait a week to get it. So there was an out of stock that triggered a lost sale. But when you look at the data analytics, you would need to keep that in mind. Overall, I told my wife we saved $18 on an order from Walmart that cost us $72 compared to if we bought those exact items at the Jewel just a half mile from us. So she was blown away by that. She saw the value associated with building that list of
So
designated products.
let me ask you, so is your wife now committed to at least utilizing your membership going forward?
I would say she is open and willing to participate in this experiment. At the same time, last night was a great example that she was writing her list. I was looking at what's on the list, and I was saying, we could always do another Walmart order for tomorrow or for later in the day. And this is the other interesting thing, Mark. I opened up the app, the Walmart app. I think it was around 5:30 or 6. I have a screenshot. I don't want to delay the recording. And when it opened up, it had a very interesting message. At 6:12, when I opened it up, I don't know if the screen's going to pick this
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. We can see it. Yeah. Busy
Busy
day, David.
day,
Get free
David.
delivery. Yeah. Get free delivery.
Late for later that night.
Yeah.
Since I was a Walmart Plus customer, I received that. This is the first time I've seen that feature that really was playing to the added convenience of rapid delivery in a unique way that I hadn't seen. In other words, this was prompt suggesting that you still had time to place an order for same day delivery, even though that's possible with other regionals or other retailers. The execution of that merchandising tactic is a great promotional example of how you can potentially nudge behavior in a way that benefits you. In this case, triggering maybe an unplanned order.
So was that a prompt when you open the app or text?
Before I even saw the main screen, right? It was the opening screen that they threw at me. And I was quite surprised and impressed by it.
Well, it seems as though Walmart's continually trying to reset and redefine levels of convenience for their online customers.
Yeah, I think what Walmart understands is the issue that plagues my wife, which is they understand there is a sizable segment, that's a relative term, that has really negative associations associated with shopping physically at a Walmart store. So that delivery disintermediates that issue for them because now you're bringing the products to them, right? From my experience, it would be impossible for someone to know whether I was getting, not impossible, but very hard for someone to know where I was getting my order from because, again, in this case, it was a gig worker delivering it in a car. So with the exception of seeing the bags, which is pretty discreet, we were able to take advantage of the low prices that Walmart has on select items to fill our pantry. Now, Walmart's strategy, from what we can see, is in this regard really about growing share of wallet with existing customers, and with that delivery expansion with Walmart Plus in particular, actually making their service more attractive to more affluent customers. It's not necessarily the discount, although the discount is what got me and got many people, right? 50% off is hard to ignore, especially when after doing it, you realize the very first order paid for a large percentage of
the membership. Yeah.
If I save $20 on the first order and then I'm only shooting to do 2 orders a month, I've almost recovered all that upfront money in the first month.
Well, and then this gets to something else that you and I talked about beforehand. It's the repeat intent that shoppers have, especially those who are 4 orders a month or more. You want to talk about that? Because this is a great example. It's a great segue into that metric.
Yeah. Well, we look at the most recent order, ask those customers how many times they've ordered from that service within the last 90 days. So we have our first timers, and then we have 4 buckets. The 4th bucket is that 4th plus. That's that regular customer. And that's important because once you move past the 3rd order into the 4th, over 80% of those customers in that 4th plus bucket are likely to reuse that same service within the next 30 days. Whereas if you're looking at a first timer, they're around 20, 25% likely to do that. Why is that important? Well, we just had the highest level repeat rate posted in the last 4 years. The only time it was higher was during 2020, during the peak of the pandemic.
The peak, yeah, peak of COVID, yeah.
But the other reason for it was there was also a favorable mix shift in those user groups. So if we looked at the 4+ group in 2023, 47% of the customers fell in that 4+ group based on that analysis. This year it jumped to 53%. So that favorable share shift mix towards the 4+ is a large reason why we've seen repeat rates go up. But what it also shows you is you have essentially half of the active customers already in very established new routines or habits, 4 or more in the last 30 days, meaning that those customers are very unlikely to churn unless the retailer or service that they're using gives them some reason to. So in the case of my Walmart one, could ginger beer be the reason for me to reconsider? Maybe, but it isn't for me. And with the annual plan, it's really not an issue. So going forward, what we see on the other side is that first timers, they still hover around 20%. They kind of expand and contract depending on the month. Everyone's fighting for that group, and that hasn't changed a lot. So it's like musical chairs, Mark. We just have fewer chairs that we're chasing to lock in or to attract. And subscriptions have played a large part in this trend that we're seeing play out. So going forward, it just shows you that the business is going to become challenging in other ways. It's no longer, again, easy to attract as many customers. The deals that we're seeing are all very similar, 50% off. So really, that's just the cost of doing business. It does ultimately come back to the value associated with using that respective service, whether it's the price, the product, the service levels, or some other aspect of that. It is getting harder overall.
If you're a regional grocer listening to this and you're aware now of that 7% increase in households 4 times plus in 90 days in terms of the repeat intent to purchase, majority of that 7% likely is going to Walmart. And I would dare say that, because Walmart is very familiar, they've taken the steps to understand who their customers are. They're modeling customer behavior. They're tailoring services and product offerings to specific households, in addition to making the service as convenient as possible. But they're also utilizing the data that they're collecting to further, as you said previously, the flywheel when it comes to keeping those customers to coming back again and again.
Yeah, I think the real key on the customer cohorts is the most affluent group is becoming increasingly receptive to Walmart's value prop.
Yeah.
That has not always been the case. And I believe the primary driver for that is delivery. And the catalyst for the growth is Walmart Plus. And the real igniter of it is the discounts. Now, keep in mind also that once you get into the Walmart Plus, they start promoting the in-home service, which also has appeal to, those who are maybe older or have mobility issues or sheltered, in the home. So they've done a wonderful job bringing this up. And let me also be clear, there's other analysis that we're doing that shows this is not a first mover advantage that Walmart's playing. I mean, Walmart is effectively just reaching full distribution within their store base for delivery. I mean, they're at 98% roughly. In 2017, they were just kind of essentially starting off with delivery.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, they started with pickup. These guys have really been executing their plan quite aggressively, rolling this out while also introducing these incremental improvements to the experience that are helping to attract these subgroups, whether it's the higher income or now They even have some things for the visibly challenged within their app. So they're putting together a more powerful value prop that's undercutting the core advantages that the grocers have, which again goes
Yeah.
back to an issue that I encountered just last night with my local regional.
You had mentioned another interesting number that popped up in November, which was the increase in sub $50,000 households in terms of using the online services. And, somewhat counterintuitively, but it seems as though the subscriptions are also generating some stickiness there as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that, Walmart had a discount membership prior for low income or those on federal assistance. That wasn't uncommon either for Amazon for that matter with their Prime membership. But again, the counterintuitive part here is that a lot of people believe that shopping online skews toward affluent, and while that may be true in some regards, what we also know is that SNAP households in general are more likely to shop online than non-SNAP households. There clearly is a value that resonates with them. Now, Walmart resonates with them primarily because they can buy more for less, and
Hmm.
Walmart has effectively removed all the service charges, if you will, that the SNAP program won't cover. The only thing that they're on the hook for is a discounted membership, and that's not a limited time offer. That's being offered all the
Yeah.
time. I think they've had very little challenges or resistance growing the lower income base. That has always been their sweet spot. Their challenge had been penetrating the upper income groups. And that was really only made possible with the expansion of delivery and the
Yeah.
enhancements that they've made to it.
Well, David, I think we've run out of time for this month's episode. So appreciate your insights as always. Look forward to chatting again next month. If you have any questions or comments for David, by all means, reach out to him directly. Everyone knows by now where to find you. And happy to entertain any questions from Mercatus as well. David, happy holidays, and we'll see you again next month.
Great, Mark. Thanks for having me. Happy holidays.